much on YouTube. Best way to get in touch with me is thesoftspokenshaman@gmail.com. As you can see in that pinned comment, best place if you want to read my books, check them out, or if you want to get on my Discord or just consult about whatever, that's the way to do that. My Discord is just kind of a little community, a little breakaway community off of YouTube where you can speak censorship free about anything, and it's pretty cool. Anyway, thing too is sometimes people like to consult about certain things. Oh, a lot of people contact me about wanting a homestead, wanting to buy property, having questions about that. Or there's people who have interest in, starting a business. They want, information. They want to, kick around ideas and get some advice. Or there's people who, I guess, for lack of a better word, they just want to chop it up. Or you could call it counseling or therapy or whatever, People have, they just want to talk about things. They want to get, second opinion or whatever. So that's the place to hit me up if you'd like to do something like that. I unfortunately do not answer questions on YouTube anymore, so that's the way to hit me up. As I say in the comments, I don't respond to comments at this time. Reach out via email. That's the way to do it. So anyways, Corby Walpole. Corby Walpole is a 23-year-old girl. I think, no, is she 23? I don't remember. She's in her 20s, I think, Australia. And she was back in the news yesterday because she got sentenced. So what'd she do? Well, she was hanging out with her friends in her backyard at some point, and she had between 23 to 35 alcoholic drinks. And her best friend had, in the heat of the moment, they've been ribbing each other all night. And he said, hey, you should get back in the kitchen so I can drink with the boys. That's what he said. And so she came out and she doused him in petrol, or what we would call gasoline here, and she set him on fire. Because apparently he said something misogynistic. She set him on fire. So she was sentenced to 7.5 years in prison in New South Wales. And I can't think of anything better for her. I really love that for her. That's really cool for her. If you're going to do something like that, you deserve that. Now, apparently, she tried to skirt responsibility by saying she was depressed, she was not in her right mind, she was under the influence of alcohol, which that's true. So he suffered 55% of his body, third-degree burns. He was in a coma for 8 days. So apparently when his friends saw that she had set him on fire, they threw him in the pool. And apparently that didn't even help all that much. So the guy's lucky to be alive. And he's got a cool name, too. His name's Jake Loader. I mean, that's a pretty good name. But anyways, Corby Walpole, the woman who set him on fire, she worked as an electrician. So she was already kind of like your not typical woman. My hypothesis is if you're going to name your child like a weird name, like Corby or Berwick or Balthazar, you are not setting them up for success. You're setting them up for failure because they got a lot to live up to with a weird name like that. How many Corbys do you know? I think I met one Corby in my life in New Orleans, and it was a dude. So there you go. It's a gender-neutral name. Corby Walpole. I mean, her parents have to be so proud of her. You got all that vim, all that piss and vinegar in you, and you use it to almost unalive your friend. Well, she's now got 7.5 years. I don't know how parole works in Australia, but she's got 7.5 years now to sit in prison and think about what she did. And it just goes to show you emotions. Everybody lets their emotions get the best of them from time to time, but you have to learn how to rein in your emotions, because if you don't, I mean, that's what they built the big house for. That's what they built prisons for, is for people who can't control their emotions. And then if you don't control your emotions, what's the prize you get? Is living in, a crappy institution with a bunch of other people who can't control their emotions. So you're living in a Thunderdome for 7.5 years, and if you come out the other end alive or not maimed, I mean, you're lucky. So that lady's out of her dang mind, and she deserves everything she gets. And apparently, she was really trying every single tactic with the defense, and the judge was not having any of it. And I don't know for sure. I want to say the judge was a female too, which is very interesting considering Australians say that, things are even worse with the male-female dynamics down there. In comparison to the States, they say it's even worse. Now, I've met some Australian women in the past couple years, California, Arizona, even out here in Arkansas, and they are extremely difficult to deal with on average. You think of your typical woman in the United States who is, let's just say on the female team and doesn't really care about the other team. In Australia, it's that much worse. It really is. So yeah, I mean that's great. I'm glad she's going to prison for that, and hopefully that'll get out, and other people will hear about this and realize that it's probably a bad idea to set your friend on fire. I mean, most people who have common sense would understand that even if you have a falling out with your friend, spur of the moment, you just don't talk to them again. Maybe if you're guys, you throw a punch or whatever, that's it. But to do anything other than that, you're out of your dang mind. And these people, it just goes to show you how many people on this planet, they've got a vague sense of what the consequences would be if you do something heinous like that, but they still do it anyways. Why would you do that? You're crazy. Absolutely crazy. You can go look online, just do an image search of Corby Walpole, and you'll see what I'm talking about. She's got the look of a woman who's maybe an electrical lineman or an electrician. She's around the boys all day, and she probably has maybe a little bit more circulating testosterone in her body than the average woman, perhaps. She looks like she might not be the one to play with, I hope she doesn't set another person on fire, though, when she gets out of prison, because, oh boy. I mean, can you imagine that? Like, I can guarantee what happened that night is they were both ribbing each other. They were both telling jokes to each other. They were both, play fighting, insulting each other. And then he said that one thing, get in the kitchen. He probably said it playfully. And she just lost her mind. I don't know. It's a funny case. But it's good to see that some judges in some countries are starting to, give a little bit of equity with the sentences, or at least not paying attention to the gender of the defendant. That is a nice thing to finally see the playing field even out a little bit, where a man does some crazy stuff, a woman does some crazy stuff, and they'll get a prison sentence. They'll get a similar prison sentence. Now, hey, look, if a man set his female friend on fire, do you think he'd get 7.5 years in prison? I think he'd get a lot more. I think he'd probably get double that. So maybe we're not at that total fair and equitable state yet, but we're getting closer, and that's cool. Anyways, thesoftspokenshaman@gmail.com is the place to hit me up. You want to read my books, you want to get